This priming of the pump that Bernanke continues to do, there are a number of things that puzzle me by it. But the first thing is Bernanke and the Fed, the report that they gave yesterday before announcing they're going to continue all of this printing of money was that the economy is unstable, that the economy is actually weak. And yet everywhere I look in the media, I keep hearing about a roaring recovery. I keep hearing about why aren't there any new jobs? Because look, the economy's coming back and profits are soaring. We just had that story in the drive-by media yesterday about how wonderful the economy is doing. Here comes the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Oh, no, it's not. And if we don't continue to pump $1 trillion a year into it, it's going to plunge. So this economy is being artificially propped up. Now, here's the thing about this, folks. Everything in life can be habit forming. So the Federal Reserve is essentially printing $1 million. Now, technically, every year, they're not $1 trillion, and they are not adding this to the money supply. This money it's a very complicated, circuitous thing to try to explain. It ends up in the stock market for all intents and purposes. And as such, gas prices are rising, the dollar is tanking, that means higher inflation. There are some consumer benefits to this, though. Mortgage rates are going to come down a little bit because interest rates are being depressed as well. Interest rates are coming down. Because people are invested, like in their 401ks, if you have any left in your 401k, but whatever's left in your 401k is invested in the stock market. Stock market is doing quite well because of all of this. So your 401k is probably doing okay. And that is the kind of thing that if the general population learns, oh, man, I kind of love this QE infinity, whatever it is. But here's the thing. It's artificial. There isn't any real growth that is behind all of this increase in the money supply. It is inflationary by definition. Yeah, your 401k would be doing much better if there's a genuine market boom and a genuine consumer boom and a genuine economic boom. But we don't have the fundamentals in place for that. There's no way to have a genuine boom of anything under liberal economic policy. It just isn't possible. And this is not me speaking. This is history. Liberal economics, you look in Europe, all of these socialist democracies in Western Europe are just starting to turn away from their welfare state. Holland was the most recent one. But it's starting to happen all over Western Europe, which, of course, many liberals think is heaven on earth. But they can't afford it anymore. They don't have central banks where they can just keep pumping artificial money that doesn't really exist until they print it into their economy like we can do. But we can't do it forever. At some point, this has to stop. And that is, I don't know that you want to be around when that happens. Look at it this way. Whoever is benefiting from this, I don't care who they are, it doesn't matter. It's just for the example. Whoever is benefiting from $1 trillion a year is going to get very used to that. They're going to grow very accustomed to it, just like any welfare recipient does, just like any living organism that becomes totally dependent. But at some point, it has to stop, doesn't it? At some point, we have to stop printing this money. At some point, somebody's going to get elected. Somebody's going to be at the Federal Reserve, is going to realize that this is a disaster in the making and can't continue. And when that happens, for example, when these beneficiaries of this primarily are people on Wall Street, you saw just, I think, last week, a little bit of fear and near panic when it was floated that Lawrence Summers might end up being the new chairman of Fed. He doesn't like all of this $1 trillion a year quantitative easing. He doesn't like all this spending, and he talked about if he was chairman, he would stop it. And the market reacted as it would be expected to. It plummeted until somebody floated the news that Summers wasn't going to be the guy, and then Summers announced he wasn't going to be the guy, and then Bernanke came out yesterday and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We're going to keep going," and market right back up. At some point, it has to stop. But it's all artificial. I think one way of looking at this is that Ben Bernanke, for whatever reason, who knows, could be political, could be his own view of economics, is single-handedly propping up the Obama administration, which is otherwise an economic disaster and failure. Single-handedly propping it up by injecting $1 trillion a year into a sector of the economy. And then the trickle-down theory comes into play as they expect that money to reveal itself, such as 401k accounts. If yours is invested in the market, your 401k is going to go up a little bit because of this. And mortgage rates are going to come down because interest rates. But on the other hand, your wages aren't going up and the cost of living is going up, and gasoline prices with this are never going to come down because of the inflationary effect of it. So it's, I don't know, it's all part of this. Nothing seems real anymore. There doesn't seem to be any foundation, solid foundation supporting anything. And now, what was it? Is it the president of Brazil who has canceled a White House visit? Do you know the last time that happened? The last time a world power, semi of any size, canceled a visit with the United States. Usually when this happens is we cancel. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like this. This is unprecedented. And what that means is that we aren't what we used to be in the eyes of the world. And that's all Obama foreign policy. Pure and simple, all. There is a downward spiral that's taking place here that's being artificially propped up. And yeah, it's working for a while, but at some point it's got to stop. And then what? Nobody knows. But the odds are that it's not going to be pretty. I mean, these are already the super rich who are largely the beneficiaries of all this spending. And the income gap continues to widen. The rich are getting richer. I wonder why. Why would that be? Why would the rich be getting richer when the Fed's pumping $1 trillion a year in the stock market? Makes total sense, right? And here we are with a Democrat regime, the Democrat Party, who has made people believe that they're going to fix this income gap. The Democrat Party, they stand for the little guy. They're going to make sure the rich get theirs. They're going to make sure these rich people get their tax increase. They're going to make sure these rich people get punished because the rich people are only rich because they've taken everything from the poor, right? So under 5 years of Obama, the rich are getting richer, and that gap between the top 1% and everybody else is wider than ever. And it only stands to reason. If we're pumping $1 trillion a year into the place where the rich fiddle around with their money, what do you think's going to happen?